Hi everyone, this is Gabe from Willowsford Farm. There's a lot of great produce coming from the farm right now, especially at this time of the year. It's getting a little bit colder, so we want something to kind of warm us up, right? So I'm actually going to show you how to use a lot of the produce and products from Willowsford Farm right in your home kitchen. So we're actually going to be making two really homey and comforting dishes. One of them is going to be glazed and roasted sweet potatoes, a little bit of kale and some charred scallion vinaigrette, and then to go with it, a classic carbonara, hopefully doing all the Italian grandmothers out there justice. So let's get started. All right, so for our first dish here, we're gonna start with the roasted sweet potatoes and the kale and a little bit of a charred scallion vinaigrette. So right now I have the oven preheating to 400 degrees. While that's working, we're gonna actually char some scallions. So these scallions coming from Willowsford Farm as well, absolutely beautiful. I would do like maybe for two people, maybe like 4 scallions. So I think that's good right there. Charring these it's kind of a technique that I like to use. I love smoke. I love that char flavor. So really utilizing that in my in the kitchen makes everything just elevate in terms of flavor. All right. So while that fire is going, we can actually set these scallions right on the stovetop. I know, it seems dangerous. Turn down the flame if you need to be able to put that on there, but just be careful. When you're doing this, please keep an eye on it. Obviously, we don't want any smoke alarms going off. But really, this is a great way to add flavor to a lot of your dishes, just to kind of get a little bit of a char going. So I am just gonna let that roast right on the fire there. If you don't feel comfortable doing it on your stovetop, you can absolutely fire up a grill. If you have like a hand torch, that is totally all right as well. In a small pot, just like this, I'm gonna add a little bit of chicken stock. So 1 cup of chicken stock. And then we're gonna add a tablespoon of honey. Now we can kind of put in the sweet potatoes. So I'm just gonna put the sweet potatoes in a bowl. Add a couple tablespoons of olive oil. And a little bit of salt. I don't really measure salt. Whatever you think is fine. I just did a couple of pinches there. But just make sure to toss that. Scallions are looking great. So I would say that right there is enough char. I don't know if you can see that. There we go. Great char on that, just enough to really get a little bit of that charred flavor. This one can go a little bit longer, so we'll leave that one on there. This one keeps falling in there. And we'll also put on the tops just to get, try to utilize the entire product, right? No waste here. And you don't have to do this all at once. You can do it in batches. Just try not to overwhelm yourself with it might seem a little intimidating at first, but once you get the hang of it, you're going to be wanting to add charred stuff to all your recipes. So just so you can see the scallions charring there. A little bit of the glaze reducing down. You want that at about a medium-high heat, just to let all that water evaporate. Great. So the sweet potatoes are in there. Here we have a sheet pan with a little bit of aluminum foil. Give it a little toss in the olive oil and the salt, and then just kind of move it around, make sure it's spread around. This is about 1 whole sweet potato, nothing crazy. I think with the amount of food that you're going to be cooking for this meal, it's a good amount of food for 2 people. So, if it doesn't look like enough, feel free to add more. If not, I personally think it's enough. So once those scallions are done, we're just going to take it off and put it into a bowl. Just let that cool down. You have the glaze working great. You have your sweet potatoes in the oven, incredible. So now what we're gonna do, we have some kale here. So this kale, as you know, kale comes on those really big, large, and really fibrous, thick stalks. So you want to just strip it, and you want to kind of just rip it in half. No, chopping here. It's pretty simple, just almost like half leaves. And what we're gonna do, we're gonna get a pan, saute pan. Have that on medium-high heat. Let that heat up. We're gonna add a couple of tablespoons of olive oil and then saute it. You don't want this to be super, super wilted and almost mush. What you want is just a really hot pan, quick saute, a little bit of salt, and that'll give it that nice little crunch to go with the sweet potatoes as well. Pan's hot enough, so now we're gonna add a couple tablespoons of olive oil. Just a small amount, just to kind of get that pan. You'll see it's a little shimmer. That's when you know when it's hot. So when it starts to have that sheen, that's when you know that pan is hot enough. Then you can add your kale. You'll hear that sizzling. You don't want to overcrowd the pan either. That overcrowding of the pan, you're not going to get a lot of that color that you want. And you're going to need a lot more kale than you think, mainly because it does wilt down quite a bit. So just be careful. Well, not be careful, but just be thoughtful of how much kale you want, because I love kale. Absolutely delicious. You want that really hot pan. You can hear it sizzling. Add the rest of the kale since it's starting to wilt. So you have your kale sauteing in there. You have sweet potatoes roasting in there. Kale is all done. We're gonna take it out of the pan. Still got a bit of crunch on it, not too wilted. And then set that aside. Don't get rid of the pan yet. We're gonna use that again for the sweet potatoes. Sweet potatoes are almost done. You only want them in there for about 15 to 20 minutes. You want them to be like tender to the fork, but they still want to hold their shape, so not really mush. But we are gonna cut these scallions and chop it into a vinaigrette. So just kind of cutting off any pieces that you may not enjoy, but I'll eat it all. So just like that, and then you want just a rough chop. This doesn't have to be perfect, mainly because you're gonna be chopping it almost into like a paste. So again, you want to just really chop that up into almost like a nice black and green paste. You want to add a little bit of salt to kind of help grind it up. That certainly helps. Put that right into your bowl. And this vinaigrette's super simple, super easy to do. I like to, I think it really brings a nice vibrancy and pop to any really like hearty and roasted sweet dishes. But if you want to see what that paste looks like, so it's just a little bit of that charred scallions, just chopped up into a paste with a little bit of salt. We're gonna add a couple, or a tablespoon of apple cider, or 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar. And then we're adding 3 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil. A little bit more salt to taste. Then you want to stir it up. You know, mix it, get it nice and incorporated. And again, I don't really measure salt. I just like to kind of add it to taste. You know, do small amounts at a time. Salt you can always add, but you can never take out. So, rule to live by. Try this vinaigrette out. Good on the oil, good on the apple cider vinegar. Just a little bit more salt. Here's that charred scallion vinaigrette with a little bit of extra virgin olive oil, apple cider vinegar, and the charred scallions. Let's take out the sweet potatoes from the oven. So that oven was at 400 degrees. As you can see, there's not much coloring on it, but that's okay because we're actually gonna finish it in the pan. So we're finishing it in the pan. Like I said, you don't want like it to be too like mushy, but you want it to give a little bit, yeah? So just like, all right, so we're gonna get these sweet potatoes right into the pan. They're already covered in a bit of oil. If you feel like you need to add more, go for it. You'll start to hear that sizzle. That's what you want to hear. The sweet potato skins I did leave on. I think it's just extra flavor. I don't mind it. If you don't like sweet potato skins, you know, then feel free to get rid of them. But I like to eat it. It's delicious. All right. All right, so we've got a nice bit of browning on there. Give it another little toss like that. Now we're gonna add the glaze to it. Now that's what you wanna see. You wanna see all that excess water evaporate. Right here, I'm gonna turn off the water or the heat. Toss it into that caramel sauce with the chicken stock, the honey, and then a little bit of kale in there as well. So now we're gonna plate it up. Give everything, you know, nicely mixed together. You wanna use a spoon, probably be more useful. I have tongs on my hands, so. Yeah, you're not gonna wanna waste a single bit of this. Charred scallion vinaigrette. Drizzle that right over the top. I absolutely love this one. So, you know, be gracious with it. And then a little bit of salt, just to kind of finish it off. Season from high up so that it covers all of it. And then I'm actually gonna add a little bit of fried sage from the farm as well. Beautiful sage. Just kind of pick it off just to garnish it. And there it is, sweet potatoes and kale with a charred scallion vinaigrette. All right, so once you finish your sweet potato appetizer, now we are gonna go on to the next dish, which is carbonara. I'm not Italian, so I'm not, please, bear with me here, but I think I can slightly impress all those Italian bread mothers out there. So here, to get it started, we have a pot of water. You're gonna season it heavily with salt, make it taste like the ocean, is how they always describe it in kitchens. And if you need to taste it, you know, stir it around, let it dissolve, make sure to taste your water. Nothing's more important than that. Great, tastes like the ocean. All right, so while that's heating up, we have a pan here that we are gonna like to medium heat. You don't have to let it kind of get too hot. What you can do right now is actually put in some pork jowl. So pork jowl is right from the jaw of the pig. I know it may be like, you know, what is pork jowl? What am I going to do with it? Pork jowl, I like to do with pork jowl what I like to do with bacon. So anything you can do with bacon, you can almost do with pork jowl. Me personally, you know, like this is such a great product from Willowsford pigs as well. But yeah, you really just want to like, it's such great flavor. You know, like if your favorite breakfast is eggs and bacon, not anymore, it's now eggs and pork jowl. So use it for the carbonara. Traditionally, carbonara uses guanciale, which is the Italian cured pork jowl. Here, we're not Italian, but you know, they do put out some dang good pork jowl. Put that on medium to low heat, let that fat render out, and just let it slowly dissolve all that fat, and then it'll start crisping up in its own fat, which is delicious. Right. So for the next thing, here we have a small bowl and a few of the Willowsford Farm eggs from our laying hens, and then a little bit of Parmigiano Reggiano, a little bit of pecorino. The Parmigiano Reggiano and the pecorino, about 1/3 of a cup of each, really tightly filled. So you kind of want to grate that in, tightly fill it in, and then set it off to the side. What we're going to do with these eggs is we're going to crack in 4 eggs, about 2 whole eggs. And then 2 egg yolks. So what you want to do is separate that out. So in here we have the egg yolks and the 2 whole eggs. What we're going to do is we are going to put in the pecorino and the Parmigiano Reggiano in there. And then whisk it all together. This is the classic carbonara, like slurry almost. You want to get that slurry, just like that. You see it. So for this bowl, we have a larger bowl. So this is going to be actually end game, where the carbonara is going to end up. But we actually want to fill this up with hot water, and you'll see why later. Just fill it up from the hot water from your sink. That'll keep it warm enough. That's really just what we want to do. We want to keep this bowl as warm as possible. Keep it near the heat so that it stays warm, but you don't want it too hot. This pork jowl is looking really nice, rendering out that fat. It's starting to crisp up just a little bit, but really delicious pork jowl in there. That's about 3 ounces, I would say. So again, enough for 2 people. You know, this is extremely like fatty pork jowl, so it's a lot of flavor. You don't need too much of it. So here you have the pork jowl still rendering out. Your water boiling, and then your bowl. Look how delicious that looks. Water's boiling. You're at, you know, for those pasta boxes, it's about 3/4 of the box. We're gonna drop that right in there, right into the water, and let that start cooking. We're also gonna add a little bit of minced garlic. So just roughly chopped. I put about 3 cloves in here. Let that kind of heat itself up and saute the garlic in that rendered pork jowl fat. So it's nicely browned. Take a little bit of the pork jowl for yourself as a snack. So what I also like to do is take a little bit of this pasta water, take about a cup of it, and just set it to the side. What that's gonna do is if you ever need it to, you know, if your sauce is a little bit too thick and you wanna thin it out, You can add a little bit of that pasta water. It's like liquid gold. Kind of still keeps it thick without thinning it out too much, and has all the flavors from the starches of that pasta. Let's check on this pasta. You know, don't throw this pasta against the wall to see if it sticks, meaning it's done. No, just taste it. Delicious. You have this fire back on for the pork jowl, the garlic, to warm it back up. What we're gonna do is take all this pasta. Once that pork jowl is all warm, turn off the heat. All that residual heat will keep it warm. Mix that together. All the garlic, the pork jowl, the pasta. Now, what you have here next, remember that bowl from earlier, filled with the hot water. You can take that, pour out the hot water. And we can put this right into the bowl. So the point of that is that we don't want the slurry that we made with the eggs and the Parmesan to cook. So that is the key. You want that hot bowl and hot pasta in there, but not too hot so that the eggs cook. And then once we do that, we'll slowly add the slurry right into the pasta and constantly mix it. Making sure not to cook the eggs, and slowly adding that slurry to make a nice and creamy sauce. And if you think your sauce is too thick, that's okay. Remember that cup of pasta water that you strained out earlier? That is gonna be something useful to help make it into a nice creamy sauce. Before you put it on the plate, add a little bit more salt to the pasta. Just how much you think is enough, and stir it all together. Take that off to the side, put it in your bowl. Swirl it around. And then a lot of black pepper. I love black pepper to finish it off. And there is your carbonara. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for watching me cook for you all, and hopefully you got some tips on some recipes to cook at home. Feel free to subscribe and tell your friends about this. Let me know how the cooking this at home is and what you think of it. Thanks again so much. See you around.